Well, hello again, everyone. As promised, I am back today to discuss more news and rumors for Halloween Horror Nights 31 at Universal Orlando. So last week we discussed the weekend, we discussed frequent fear passes, and we talked about that last house rumor that was swirling around, but today we have a whole lot more to talk about. So after I released last week's video, Horror Night Nightmares came out with their final speculation map for Halloween Horror Nights 31. So we need to talk about that one. We need to talk about Scarezone Rumors because we haven't talked about that yet. There's the cheeky tribute store updates that probably hint to something at Halloween Horror Nights this fall. There's Scream early tickets. There's Scareactor Dining. Plus we got merch released today. There's a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. So first up, we have the final speculation map for 2022. So let's go through what's on the map. So we previously had witches as one of the houses, and now it's spirits of the coven. So it's still the witch house. This one specifically, I believe spirits is a play on words because what I've heard is that this house is going to take place in a speakeasy. It's not your witch over a cauldron like in Wicked Growth, but a different era of witches taking place in a speakeasy. So if it's true, then spirits has multiple meanings, and I'm very excited to see that house. That one is right up my alley. Next up, we have the prison house. It's an original, nothing new to report there. Halloween already announced. We have Fiesta de Chupacabras. The Chupacabra was on the map before. This one seems pretty well confirmed. We are having a Chupacabra house. Very curious to see how they pull that off. Hopefully it's more werewolf in London and not so much dog on a stick from Resident Evil. Fingers crossed, although dog on a stick did bring me lots of joy, so either way, it's a win. Next up, we have Dead Man's Wharf, which if you saw the shirt, it said Dead Man's Pier, and everyone had a moment of pause because why would it be Dead Man's Pier instead of Dead Man's Wharf? I don't know, but apparently it's Dead Man's Pier, if that shirt is to be believed. Then we have Blumhouse, already confirmed, already announced. Bugs Eaten Alive. It's the Bug House. I know a lot of you out there are dreading it. You're gonna either love it or hate it, I think. Next we have Descendants of Destruction. This is the subway zombies, underground creatures, the possible Seeds of Extinction 2 / maybe a prequel for Seeds of Extinction. That's the original that we've talked about before. This is the one that I believe may have originally been Last of Us, and that's where we got subway zombies from. And maybe Last of Us didn't pan out, but they kept the subway. We moved to Subway Zombies, we moved to Seeds of Extinction 2, to now Descendants of Destruction. It might not even be anything to do with Seeds of Extinction, we'll find out, but it does sound like creatures in a subway of some context. And then we have two more houses that are already announced. We have The Weeknd and the Toads. I have not stopped thinking about the Toads and my fear of going through that house ever since it was announced last week. I'm not prepared for the toad-like creatures. I'm not ready. I'm not. There's no part of me that's ready for that. And then finally we have Legends Collide. So what that means is that our 4 IPs have been announced. We have 6 originals to come. My assumption is that all of those will be announced at one time. I think we're gonna have a full website reveal coming next. Maybe next week, fingers crossed, and that's when we're just going to find out all of the houses and all of the scare zones. So with that final speculation map, how are you guys feeling about the house lineup for this year? I know there's some mixed reactions out there. I personally am very excited for it because there's 6 originals, and as I said last week, it's kind of more like 8 originals because 2 of them are borderline. I won't know until I walk through them, but I'm very much looking forward to the Spirits of the Coven house and the Dead Man's Pier house. Both of those sound right up my alley as far as being very immersive and very theme-driven houses. So now with that map, let's move on to the Scarezone Rumors. From the Horror Night Nightmares map, which I'll put up here one more time, we have a traditional Halloween zone pretty much right when you walk in. We have Candy Mutants over in New York. We have Coven Witches in San Francisco, Scarecrow over in Central Park, and Deadly Unrest in Hollywood. Now, we've already been seeing sets. Sets are popping up all around the park. The only one that's super obvious so far is Deadly Unrest. It is very clearly a cemetery setting. They're putting out large sets again because now we no longer have the Superstar Parade. So for the first time in 10 years, we can have permanent scare zone sets. The last time that was possible was in 2011, And so it's very exciting. I can't wait to see what else they do in the spaces as we get closer to the event, but we do already have construction going up in all of the zones. So I don't know that much about the Central Park zone, the San Francisco zone, or the entryway, but I have some thoughts on the other two. So obviously Deadly Unrest, it seems to fit. I don't know what kind of creatures. I know originally there were rumors of vampires being there. It could still be vampires, but I'm thinking more Victorian ghosts. We'll see with time once we see some costumes, but that's the vibe I'm getting. And then over in New York, let's combine two topics. Let's talk about that tribute store exit table that's been giving us hints all season, and let's talk about those candy mutants. So if you've been following along, there is a table at the exit of the summer tribute store that's been giving us little hints to some sort of developing story all summer. And if you've been paying attention, it definitely feels like it has a Halloween Horror Nights vibe to it. So this past week, we got what I believe to be the final update because the tribute store does close on August 7th. So here is the picture that was shared by Skipper Haas. I'll do a link down below to the original account that posted it. So this was the final picture. And if you go back through their account, they have pictures of every single update that's happened at the table so you can see the progress along the way. And I even filmed part of the table while I was there visiting, so you can check out my video from there as well. Over the course of the summer, we've gotten little newspaper snippets that tell the story of the tribute theater and what it's gone through in previous years. Now, when we're visiting this summer, it's the 1980s because obviously they're showing E.T., Back to the Future, Jaws. However, these stories take place long before that, and the last newspaper clipping seems to be from 1954. So definitely check out Skipper's photos in order to follow the entire story. Through those newspaper articles, we find out some more about the sordid past of the tribute theater throughout the years, which seems to end with a focus on candy and a candy factory and poisoned candy, which seems to tie in really well with that rumored candy mutant scare zone. So my assumption is that table was a little bit of a hint as to what's going to be happening in the streets right outside the tribute theater. I'm wondering if we're going to go back in time and the tribute store for Halloween Horror Nights will be the tribute theater back in the 1950s. My only caveat, the only thing that's holding me back is that they have posted the signs to do the photo op. If you remember last year, you could pay a pretty high price and have your photo added to the tribute store. Last year, they were in these historic photos. This year's photo op seems to be a tomb, and I don't see how that fits inside a theater. I still believe that the streets are going to tie in with what was happening on that table, but I might be wrong on the tribute store, unfortunately. I think it'd be really cool if they had done that, but those tombs, I just don't see that happening in the hallway of a theater. So I guess time will tell as far as that mystery. So the other big rumor for Scare Zones is that there's going to be a traditional retro Halloween feel throughout the park. And this list of Scare Zones definitely supports that rumor. We've got witches, we've got possibly Victorian ghosts. Not quite sure what the candy mutants are gonna be, but if it's taking place in the 1950s and it's set at Halloween with trick-or-treaters getting poison candy and that kind of stuff, it could definitely fit in with traditional vibes. We've got a traditional zone right up front, and we've got scarecrows. Those are all very traditional Halloween. I could absolutely see this being true, and it fits with it being the 31st year. Halloween is on the 31st. I love it. To add to the evidence that that's true, today we got a huge merch drop full of classic Halloween, traditional Halloween, retro Halloween imagery. For all my Lil Boo fans out there, you are in luck because there is an entire collection just around Lil Boo. Lil Boo is now the mascot of Halloween Horror Nights. He's gonna be everywhere and he is all over the merch. I'm gonna include a couple pictures from Inside Universal. If you guys aren't already following Inside Universal on Twitter, I highly recommend it. They are in the parks first thing in the morning posting Scare Zone construction, the merch drops, everything. So I will link their account down below. Here's one of the pictures they took of the merch today, full of Lil Boo. This shirt is giving me all of the traditional Halloween vibes that I need for the season, and I will definitely be buying it because I just love all the traditional Halloween, the cat, the ghost, everything about it, fantastic. But Lil Boo is not all by himself because the Pumpkin Lord is also on a couple pieces of merchandise. I would not be surprised if we see Lil Boo or the Pumpkin Lord in that traditional scare zone right up front. Maybe they'll just be Easter eggs, but I wouldn't be shocked if they return in some way in that zone. So if this is the direction that we're going for Halloween Horror Nights 31 as far as a park-wide feel, sign me up. I am here for it. I love traditional Halloween. It's been a long time since I remember having that kind of feel at Halloween Horror Nights. Switching from last year that was so heavy metal to this year traditional Halloween, I'm here for it. So that wraps up the latest news and rumors, but now we need to go into a couple other things that were announced last week that I did not have time to discuss in that long video. So we need to talk about Scream early tickets, because I had a couple questions in the comments about those, and Scareactor Dining. So both of these are additional options that you can add to your Halloween Horror Nights 31 experience. They are both upcharges, so these are totally up to you if you want to add them to your trip, but I do want to explain a little more about them. So your first option is Scream early. So I want to say right off the bat, this is only something you should think about if you are not an annual pass holder. So if you are already an annual pass holder, you do not need this ticket. You can disregard this ticket. But the Scream early pass essentially gets you into the park 2 hours early before Halloween Horror Nights so that you can participate in Stay and Scream. If you're already an annual pass holder, that is your Scream early ticket. You show up to the park before 5 p.m. You get in those gates, and then at 5 p.m. you enter one of the Stay and Scream corrals with your Halloween Horror Nights ticket. But if you aren't an annual pass holder, this is your way to attend Stay and Scream without having to buy an entire day ticket. That is an option. You can do an entire day ticket if you are very brave and you have amazing feet and you can make it through an entire day and an entire night at Halloween Horror Nights. More power to you. But if you want to just get in a little early to do Stay and Scream, the Scream early ticket is your option. It is $35 to add on to your Halloween Horror Nights ticket. You'll have park access at 3 p.m. You can come into the park, you can ride a few rides, shop, do whatever you want in those 2 hours. And then at 5 p.m. the park will close and you will be directed to one of the Stay and Scream locations. So at 5 p.m. you will scan into one of those locations with your Halloween Horror Nights pass, and then you will wait 45 minutes to an hour for the park to open for Stay and Scream guests, and you will go into your first house of the night. So if you are not getting express passes for your night and you only have a night or two to go to Halloween Horror Nights, this might be the option for you. Participating in Stay and Scream will give you a very brief head start on getting into houses before the main gates open. So in previous years, they've released Stay and Scream guests around 5:45 or 6, and in theory the gates don't open until 6:30. However, I will tell you many nights those gates open early. So you're usually only getting about a 15-minute head start, but that can make a big difference if you don't have express. It depends on the year, it depends on the layout of the houses, which Stay and Scream location is best for you. I definitely plan to do a video talking about Stay and Scream strategy a little later on once we know for sure house locations. So I have to wait for a full announcement before I know that and can give more advice. If you're not doing express, you might want to consider adding the $35 Scream early ticket to really get the most out of a single night or a double night. If you have one of the frequent fear passes, you're going a lot, you don't necessarily need this, but if you're trying to pack in a lot with a short period of time, this might be the best way to do it. So more strategy to come in a future video. That's something for you to start thinking about and budgeting for your trip if you want to add the $35 fee per person. So moving on to Scareactor Dining, this is another option that you can add to your Halloween Horror Nights experience that will get you into a Stay and Scream-like experience, but it's not the same. So Scareactor Dining will cost you $54.99 per person, plus tax, so you still have to add tax onto that. But it includes a buffet dining experience at Louis' Italian restaurant, that's new for this year, as well as Scareactor photo experiences and a digital download of one of the photos that you take. I'm not quite sure how they decide which one. I assume there's one with a photographer and the rest is just you take it personally on your own phone. I've never done Scareactor Dining. That seems to be what I've seen other people do, is most of the time you just take it with your own phone. You must already have your Halloween Horror Nights ticket in order to add this. Similar to Stay and Scream, where you go into the Scareactor Dining, you're held in Scareactor Dining, you have your food, you have your photos, and at a certain point they will release you into the park. The catch with this is that I know from other friends' experience that some nights Scareactor Dining releases on the later side, so you won't necessarily beat the crowd. crowds, because I know sometimes they will lead you to a house. It's sometimes after the gates have already opened, so you're not getting the same benefit of Stay and Scream. Other nights they might release you on time, so it's really just a gamble. It's up to you how much you care about being some of the first people going through the houses. If you care more about just having dinner, getting to relax, and some air conditioning, which is a nice perk, and getting guaranteed photo ops with some of the Halloween Horror Nights characters, then maybe this is the choice for you, rather than being outside in the heat of Stay and Scream, waiting in crowds, waiting to be some of the first people through the houses. If you already have Express, if you've already purchased Express for the event, then by all means do Scareactor Dining, because it won't matter to you what time they release you, because you'll have Express and you will be set for the night as far as seeing everything you want, as long as you plan appropriately. More on that to come in my tips and tricks video in a few weeks. And yes, you may have caught that I said that that is a new location for this year, because previously Scareactor Dining was held in the Monsters Cafe, RIP Monsters Cafe. That is no longer there. The catch for the New York Stay and Scream is that Louis used to be part of the Stay and Scream. That was just a recent addition. Back in the day, it was only Finnegan's in one small area. Basically, ever since Stranger Things broke Stay and Scream. Ever since 2018, they've expanded the New York Stay and Scream to be basically all of New York, and it used to include Louis. So I know people used to go in there and get pizza and pizza fries, and I'm sorry, but that will no longer be an option. They might still do the pickup window, I'm not quite sure. For everyone who loved the AC of Louis and pizza fries while you waited in Stay and Scream, not this year, guys. Scareactor Dining has taken over that spot. So that wraps up all the latest news and rumors from this past week. However, as we saw today, we got a merch drop, an unexpected merch drop. So who knows what's gonna happen in this next week. I am hoping we're going to get a full reveal next week, but for now, I am just gonna go ahead and start saving up my money, because I need to buy my frequent fear pass. I need to buy a whole bunch of that traditional Halloween merch. So for the next 3 months, I'm just gonna be throwing money at Universal like crazy, and it's the best time of the year. So with that, I'm gonna sign off, but fingers crossed for full announcement very soon. Stay safe and stay swoopy. Bye.